Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video of Fox Reacts. Today we're checking out a brand new one from the food series about how MrBeast is wrong about the Wonka chocolate river. Huh, let's see what he's talking about. Now, if you guys saw my vids from the 17th, you know I just underwent a bit of surgery. So if you see me kind of just rubbing this area or seeming like I'm just in a bit of pain, I am. But it's not enough to stop me from YouTube.
Augusto, sweetheart, save some room for later.
I missed this
Augustus,
classic
please,
movie.
don't do that. My chocolate must never be touched by human hand. Please, don't do that.
And there you go, into the
Don't
chocolate.
just stand there, do something.
Hell, police, murder.
Give me into marshmallows in 5
What
seconds.
the heck?
Impossible, my dear lady. That's absurd. Unthinkable.
Why?
Because the chocolate river would have finished him off much faster.
Whoa, wait, what?
The suspense is terrible. He's gonna go this time. I hope
Whoa.
it'll last.
Wait, what? What do you mean the chocolate river will finish them off faster?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, the show that's like a
curious,
river
Matt.
of
What do you
dark
have?
chocolate. Sweet, but bitter. In case you missed it, earlier this year, MrBeast
Yeah, I
launched a new
remember
brand
that.
of chocolate bar, Feastables. And true to his brand, it came with a promotion.
10 random
remember
bars
that.
are going to have a mystery ticket inside of them, and if you get this mystery ticket, we will fly you out to compete for a chocolate factory in one of our videos.
Well, that video's
Oh,
finally
yeah.
come out, complete with
Damn
him
it.
bringing Willy
But, oh
Wonka's
well.
chocolate factory to life. He even recreated the iconic
Well,
chocolate
congrats, guys.
waterfall and river.
Don't ask me how, but we put a chocolate river with a chocolate waterfall in the middle of this warehouse.
Who would have thought a river made of chocolate is not very practical?
Except that's where he'd be wrong. A chocolate river is shockingly practical. You see, watch
Well,
it.
actually, here's the real question. Is that real chocolate or is it just brown water? And I mean brown as in dyed. Because if that's actual chocolate, damn, that's a lot of chocolate wasted. If that's just brown water, then it's a lot more feasible.
Watching MrBeast's version of the chocolate river really got me thinking for the first time ever about the actual physical realities of a chocolate river. Just so
Go
we're
on.
clear, that river in both Jimmy's video and the original film is supposed to be made of actual melted chocolate and not,
All right.
you know, brown poop water. Look,
Okay.
we were all thinking it. Heck, even the movie calls it out.
What a disgusting, dirty river.
It's industrial waste, that.
That's chocolate.
This is one
Yep.
place where the 2005 remake with Johnny Depp is actually more faithful to Willy
Love
Wonka canon.
that.
That giant CGI waterfall and river might look more artificial, but it's actually truer to what the texture of actual melted chocolate would be,
Oh, yeah,
which,
look
if
at
it's
that.
liquid, should be hot, right? Like hot melted chocolate. Chocolate
True.
is solid at room
True.
temperature. Wouldn't poor Augustus Gloop be boiled alive after he fell into the river? How long could he
Oh,
actually
damn, that
last
would
in
be-
there? And speaking of
that's
lasting,
dark.
could he actually drown inside of a chocolate river? We're told he
I mean,
can't swim,
maybe.
but can you swim in melted chocolate? Does the ability to tread water matter here? And could a factory
mean,
like this
wouldn't
actually
it
have
all,
all of
really?
this chocolate mixed by a waterfall like Wonka says? Like I said, a lot of questions started to flood my brain while watching that MrBeast video. So
Yeah,
today,
now
we're gonna be
this
getting
all
to the
gets you
chewy
questioning.
scientific center of all these chocolate river mysteries. And trust me, you will be surprised by what I found. This seemingly
All right, Matt,
ridiculous Wonka
surprise me.
concoction isn't nearly as absurd as it might initially seem. In fact, this wacky movie is actually a heck of a lot more accurate to the actual chocolate manufacturing process than I
Well,
think
not
any
many,
of us first
little people
realized
that
when
had
we
the
were
high
watching the
ultimate
movie.
Oompa
And
Loompas.
Augustus, well, let's just say that his scene would look very different. So come with me, and you'll see a world of cold scientific calculation as we explore the reality of Wonka's chocolate
Nice, you
factory.
actually
Now,
kept it in
right
tune
at the
for the
top
most
here, can I
part.
just be an Augustus Gloop apologist for a second? I mean, I know that we're meant to think of him as a spoiled brat who's punished for his gluttony by falling into the
I mean,
river,
he is
but
a
was it
glutton
really that
before
wrong of
anything.
him to start drinking the chocolate water? I mean, Wonka introduced all the visitors to the chocolate room and then turned them loose to go ahead and eat anything. That is the
True.
entire point of the room. The kids are clearly meant to
True, that is the thing. If he didn't want people touching the chocolate river, then he should have said, if you wish to drink from the chocolate river, use like a specific candy straw. Why does that make sense? Huh. Why didn't he do that? Like, just take a candy cane, pop off the top, and there you go. Just, I shouldn't really be trying to even pretend stuff, because that could totally damage what's going on.
to try eating all of the stuff that they see,
you know,
from the
just going-
mushrooms to the trees. And there in the middle, the giant centerpiece is a river of frickin' chocolate. It was not unreasonable for Augustus to assume that in the everything is made of candy and you can eat it room, the chocolate river was also up for grabs. And yet here's Wonka immediately throwing a fit.
No one told
Augustus,
him to
please,
stop
don't
that.
do that. My chocolate must never be touched by human hands. Don't do that!
The Johnny Depp version is even worse because the Oompa Loompas just shame him through the medium of song.
Augustus Gloop, the great bakery
Nincompoop.
Harassment much? Just
Yeah.
saying, hashtag justice for Gloop. Okay, now that he's in the river of chocolate, what would actually be happening here? Well, first, we're told this.
He can't swim.
There's no better time to learn.
And while I love Wonka's line here, the ability to
Wow,
swim shouldn't
that's-
matter at all when it comes to Augustus's
That line really makes me think of my stepdad. And I don't remember how old I was, but I was at a public pool with him and my family and all of that. And as a little kid, I didn't know how to swim. And I enjoyed being in the water, but I didn't want to swim. So hey, here's how he figured out. He just picked me up without warning and just threw me like 5 feet away from the wall of the pool. No floats, no anything. I just was in the water. I was freaking out. He got his ass chewed out for that. And on that day to never do that again. And nowadays you can't really just toss a child into the water with the whole either learn to swim or drown idea. You can't. You do that, you get charged with child abuse. He was lucky my mom did not charge him with child abuse. He was lucky.
survival. In fact, he would have to actively try to drown inside of that river of melted chocolate. You see, chocolate is
thick?
denser than water, and the
Oh.
denser a fluid is, the more buoyant force is pushing you upward when you try to float in it. As an example,
okay.
the Dead Sea. It's located between Jordan and Israel, and it's 9.6 times saltier than
Holy
ocean water.
hell.
Normal water has a density of 1 kilogram per liter. The Dead Sea, because of all that salt, has a slightly higher density of 1.24 kilograms
that
per
doesn't
liter.
look like
And let me
it's
tell you,
too
with
bad.
even that amount of difference, floating in the Dead Sea is incredibly easy. Wow! Steph and I actually did it about 10 years ago, and it feels like someone is just actively holding you up in the water.
Nice.
It is a wild experience. So
Not
now
nice in
compare
the old,
that
but
to
nice
the
about it
density of
being easier
melted
to float.
chocolate, which is even more dense than the Dead Sea, between 1.28 and 1.31 times the density of normal
Okay,
water.
so
Basically,
you
it would
actually
be
really could
hard for
float.
Augustus
Huh.
to sink below the chocolatey surface. And honestly, this is kind of reflected in the
Okay, that's
movie. For
actually
someone who
good.
can't swim, Augustus seems to be staying above the surface pretty darn well, at least until the pipe suction pulls him down.
And there
Had
we
it
go.
now. The suction's got him.
That said, if he even had a little bit of swimming ability, for as wild as it sounds, there wouldn't be anything preventing him from swimming in a river of melted chocolate. According to
Nothing
research
stopping
published by
him.
the University of Minnesota, if you put swimmers in a liquid that's more viscous than the water they're used to swimming in, they'll still be able to swim without their speed being diminished. In fact, according to
Nice.
everything we know about fluid dynamics, you'd have
That's
to have a
really
liquid
cool.
that was around 1,000 times more viscous before people swimming noticeably slowed down. Good news
Oh,
here,
yeah.
chocolate
Huh.
is only about 50 times more viscous than water. And that,
Ta-da.
my friends, is why you don't skip your little guppy swim lessons. It'll save your life one day when you're swimming in a pool of chocolate. But wait a
Nice.
minute, this whole time we've been talking about liquid chocolate like it's a perfectly normal thing. Clearly
Sorry.
it's not. Chocolate is solid at room temperature. That is melted chocolate inside of that river. In other words, hot
Supposedly.
chocolate. Even the Oompa Loompas talk about how they're gonna let Augustus boil for a little bit of extra time in the 2005 remake.
Absolutely sure.
So
oh,
how
man, that's,
hot does that chocolate river
kinda
have to be in order to be,
oh,
a river? Well,
We're back.
turns out melted chocolate might not be deadly, but it can be damaging. For a flowing,
Oh.
dripping chocolate fountain, you usually want the chocolate to be reaching temperatures of about 110 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit,
Yeah,
or
so that can
43 to
kinda-
49
so that would
degrees
definitely leave
Celsius.
some minor
Pretty
bones.
darn hot. For comparison, hot tubs in the US are prohibited from going above 104 degrees Fahrenheit, or 40 degrees Celsius,
that makes
specifically
sense.
due to safety concerns. And 100 degrees Fahrenheit, or 38 degrees Celsius, is the recommended safe temperature for adults. According to Johns
Nice.
Hopkins University, exposing skin to 120-degree fluids tends to cause serious burns after 10 minutes of
There you go.
exposure, which admittedly is a lot longer than we see Augustus in the gloop, but it's something to be concerned
Augustus
about,
in
especially
the gloop.
considering that
Not
hot
bad.
melted chocolate is going to be a lot stickier than water. It's
Yeah,
going to be
that's gonna
important to
just
wash that off
stick
his
to
skin
him.
immediately. We see this very clearly in the Johnny Depp remake, where the chocolate really
Yep,
sticks
look
to
at
his
that.
body as he flails around. So getting that stuff washed off as soon as you
Wonder
shot
what they
through the
use
pipe
for
is going to
that.
be a top priority. He wouldn't be crying out due to drowning, he'd be crying out due to to getting boiled to death. Also, is it just me or is this like the third time that I've mentioned the 2005 Johnny Depp remake as being the version that's correct? Do I somewhere deep in the recesses of my brain somehow think that this is the better version of the story?
Good morning, Starshine. The Earth says hello.
Well, something just kind of point out is that this 2005 remake with Johnny Depp, the director or producer, I don't remember which, said that they wanted it to stick more towards the actual source material, which is why this one is more correct, because it's stuck closer to the actual book.
Nope, no it isn't. Let's just say there's a reason no one was talking about this one getting a sequel during the big Johnny Depp trial.
Okay, then. Let's move along.
I mean, how would you make a sequel to it?
But safety concerns aside, let's go back to what gets said during the MrBeast video.
Who would have thought a river made of chocolate is not very practical?
Is this a practical way of producing chocolate? Well, this is what Wonka has to say about the chocolate waterfall, the supposed crown jewel of his factory.
That's the most fantastic thing I've ever seen.
10,000 gallons an hour. And look at my waterfall.
Nice.
That's the most important thing. It's actually churning my chocolate.
10,000 gallons an hour, you say? Chocolate? Is that actually realistic for a waterfall of this size? And more importantly, should I be impressed with that number or not? 10,000 gallons an hour seems high, but this is an international candy company after all. Is 10,000 gallons an hour enough to provide candy to the entire world? Well, let's tackle the size question first. As it turns out, that number is almost perfectly on the money. According to a vendor that specializes in artificial waterfalls, the water flow rate for waterfalls is going to vary depending on how splashy you want it to be. A slow, non-splashy, quiet waterfall would have a flow rate of around 100 gallons per hour per inch of waterfall width. But if you want yourself a splashy, frothy, white water effect for your waterfall that's going to make some noise, like the one we see in Wonka's factory, you're going to be looking at a flow rate somewhere between 200 and 500 gallons per hour per inch of waterfall width. That means that for a flow rate of 10,000 gallons per hour like Wonka claims, the waterfall would need to be somewhere between 20 and 50 inches wide, or 0.5 meters to 1.25 meters. And looking at that waterfall, it looks to fall exactly somewhere in that range. So good on the film's writers for actually doing the research. And yeah, I'm giving credit to the film writers because the 10,000 gallons Wonka says in the movie is actually a lot more precise than in the original book, where Wonka just says, quote, thousands of gallons an hour, my dear children, thousands and thousands of gallons. But the real question here is whether the waterfall is up to the task of mixing all of Wonka's chocolate. I mean, we just established that the waterfall could handle 10,000 gallons an hour, but is that enough for Willy Wonka to maintain a worldwide chocolate empire? Well, I did some calculations, and based on the weight and volume of milk chocolate, Wonka's 10,000 gallons an hour translates into over 500 million pounds of chocolate per year. That's 519.5 million pounds per year to be exact. But is that number enough to be a global chocolate juggernaut? Well, in 2011, Hershey's said that they were producing over 1 billion pounds of chocolate products per year. Obviously, over 1 billion pounds of chocolate products is a huge range and a very vague definition, but we're gonna assume that it's somewhere between 1 and 2 billion pounds. Now, at first, it might look like Wonka is severely lagging behind. He's only outputting around 500 million pounds of chocolate. But remember that Wonka's factory here is operating in 1971, when the globe's population was around half of what it is today. In other words, Wonka was definitely keeping pace and seemingly had what it took to be a global leader in chocolate. And here's the part that's even more impressive. That billion-ish number for Hershey's, that's based on the output of all 19 of the plants that they have operating worldwide. Meanwhile, Wonka is over here processing all of his chocolate in a single factory. One Wonka factory is the equivalent to like 10 Hershey's factories. Amazing. Huge kudos to those Oompa Loompas. So that's all well and good and super impressive, both in terms of scale and also in terms of mathematical accuracy. The numbers all shockingly check out.
Everything
Honestly,
fits.
it's almost enough to make me forgive the biggest issue of all in this scene. The fact that using a white water waterfall is the exact opposite of how you'd actually want to mix your chocolate.
You know, no other factory in the world mixes its chocolate by waterfall.
There's a good reason for that, Bill. You don't want your chocolate to get all frothy like that. All that white frothiness you see when the water hits the boulders at the bottom of the waterfall, that white water effect is what happens when the liquid's flow is so turbulent that air gets trapped within it, creating a frothy, unstable current. And air bubbles are something that you do not want within your chocolate. In fact, most factories have processes that are specifically designed to eliminate and remove those air bubbles. When creating chocolate bars at home, in fact, an important step in the process is banging the molds on the table or shaking them in order to let the air bubbles rise to the surface and release, thereby
Otherwise,
leaving
it would
behind
just
a nice,
pop.
smooth, even
Oh, that's
chocolate
right.
bar. And before you go thinking that this might be his secret ingredient or something, while aerated chocolate is indeed a big trend nowadays,
Look at
air
that.
is not the gas that you use to create that stuff.
Probably
In short,
nitrogen.
as we just proved, Wonka has a chocolate production process that would
Hey,
enable him
double
to
the
be a
Wonka.
world leader. The only problem with that is the quality of his chocolate would flat out suck. And that's probably why he needed a giveaway to promote it. No offense meant to MrBeast, by the way. Feastable's
Hey,
chocolate,
it's
really
easy,
solid.
Jimmy.
But hey, that's just a theory. A
And so there you
food
go.
theory. And hey, while MrBeast's initial giveaway is over, he just started a new one where he's giving away Teslas, Xboxes, and chances to appear in future videos. And here's the really shocking part. You can win all of it without spending a dime. Actually,
Oh yeah, I guess he's about to give a link to the previous video to where he gave away pretty much how to win the video. Well, win the contest, I mean, to get into the chocolate factory. Anyway, that's what we're going to call it an in. I want you all to remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Down in the description will be a link to the original video, so remember to support the original creators and all they do. And I'll see all of you folks next time. Peace.